All right, welcome. Today we're going to take a journey into a really revolutionary idea about power. It's a trip that starts with some pretty deep philosophy, but I promise you, it ends up at the absolute cutting edge of technology. And it might just change how you think about, well, you. So let's kick things off with a classic, right? Who holds the power? For, I don't know, most of human history, the answer seemed pretty obvious. It's the king, it's the government, the big corporations. Power was something you could point to. It was a thing that people had. But what if that whole way of looking at it is completely backwards? Okay, so check this out. On the left, you've got the old view, the pyramid. Power's at the top, and it flows down. Simple. But on the right, that's the radical rethink. Power isn't a thing you can hold. It's a network, a web that flows through absolutely everyone and everything. And that is the huge shift we're going to unpack today. Now, this new perspective really comes from one guy in particular, the French philosopher Michel Foucault. He looked at the traditional ways of thinking about power, like Karl Marx focusing on economics and class, and he basically said, you're missing the real story. He proposed something way more subtle and in a lot of ways way more everywhere. See, for Foucault, power isn't a possession. He called it an oceanic force. Just think about that image for a second. It's not some hammer that only a few people get to swing. It's the ocean that we're all swimming in all the time. It's there in every single one of our interactions, constantly shaping us. So, if power is this giant network, how does it actually work? I mean, it's clearly not as simple as one person barking orders at another. Foucault actually broke it down into a few key characteristics that are really helpful. First up, it's relational. This is huge. Power isn't something a person has. It's something that happens between people. It only pops into existence in what Foucault called force relations, that constant push and pull you feel in every interaction, from a parent and child to a doctor and patient, to you and your best friend. Second, and this one's a bit of a mind bender, power is productive. We usually think of power as the thing that says no, right? The thing that limits us. But Foucault flipped that completely. He said its main job isn't to stop us, it's to produce things. It produces knowledge, it produces our reality, and most importantly, it produces our identities. It makes us who we are. And third, it's diffuse. This is so crucial. There's no one at the top pulling the strings. There's no central committee. Power comes from everywhere and nowhere all at once. It's just distributed across the whole social system, like electricity running through a grid. Okay, so this is how those big abstract ideas actually touch our lives. Power works through these little everyday mechanisms, what Foucault called capillaries. For instance, surveillance. Just the idea that you might be watched makes you police your own behavior, doesn't it? Or take these professional discourses, the official way doctors or lawyers talk. They create the very definitions of what's normal or criminal. And through all of this, a process called subjectification happens. We get molded into specific kinds of people, a good student, a responsible employee, a diagnosed patient. And that leads us to maybe Foucault's most mind-blowing concept, the fact that power and knowledge are basically inseparable. And this is where it really starts to get personal. Let me just ask you this. Think about it for a second. Are categories like normal and abnormal just objective facts about the world, things that we discover? Or are they things that we invent? I think you know what Foucault would say. He'd argue they are absolutely 100% created. This is the idea of power/knowledge. See, they're not two separate things. They're two sides of the exact same coin. Knowledge is never neutral. It's always cooked up inside some kind of power dynamic. And in turn, power gets its strength by using that knowledge to define us, to control us. And you can see the process laid out right here. It's kind of brilliant and terrifying. First, some field of knowledge, like medicine, creates a new category, let's say deviant. Then institutions like schools or hospitals start using that category to sort people out. And then the final step. We internalize it. We start to believe in that category and begin to police ourselves to fit into the normal box. We become both the subjects of power and the agents of it. Okay, so I know this might all be sounding a bit like abstract philosophy from the last century, but I'm telling you, Foucault's ideas have never been more relevant. In fact, they are the perfect lens for understanding the technologies that are building our future right now.
Honestly, Foucault's network model is like the secret blueprint for some of our most advanced systems. Think about decentralized tech, like blockchain. What's the entire point? To distribute power away from a central bank, right? That's Foucault 101. Or what about adaptive AIs that learn and change based on what we do? We are all just nodes in its network, feeding it information, and it, in turn, is shaping our world. We're shaping the system and being shaped by it, all at the same time.
And this is where we take a really fascinating leap. We've seen how these power networks shape society. Okay, we get that. But what if we turn that lens around and apply this exact same network model to our own identity, to the self? So this leads us to this radical new framework. And yeah, it has a pretty wild name, the transdimensional sociogenic assemblage. It is a mouthful, I know, but the core idea is actually pretty straightforward. You are not one single thing. You are a system. So you can just forget that old idea of having a single core true self. This model talks about the complex assemblage self. Your identity is what we call an emergent property, kind of like how consciousness just emerges from all the neurons firing in your brain. It's a self-organizing system made up of all your internal parts and all your external connections. And the building blocks of this system? They're called nodes. You've got internal nodes, like your different personalities, right? Your work self, your family self. And you've got external nodes, your friends, your job, your social media accounts. Each and every one of those nodes is its own little center of power and influence in the massive network that is you. And inside your head, that network is what's called a rhizomatic psyche. Now, a rhizome is a plant root, like ginger, that just grows sideways with no central point, no hierarchy at all. This model is saying our mind is just like that, a totally flat network of competing subpersonalities, memories, and drives, all with no single CEO sitting in the corner office calling the shots. So, what it really boils down to is this incredibly powerful symmetry. Just like our society is a huge network of individuals, your own identity is a huge network of subpersonalities and influences. It's like you have a whole society inside your mind, and outside, society itself acts like one big collective mind. And that brings us to the final, really provocative question. If Foucault was right, that power has no single author, no one in charge, and if this new model is right, that the self has no central controller, then who or what is actually in control? It's a question that kind of challenges the very foundation of how we think about everything: power, identity, and ourselves.